Hello my loves, I'm Ellie Frost and this video is about narcissistic abuse, losing ourselves when we're with the narcissist, and the emotional crashes, right, of when we withdraw or leave, right? So much as, yes, I'm teaching us that we have to stop letting our energy be siphoned by the narcissist and ultimately break away, especially psychically as well as physically. I don't recommend to people that they just leave without becoming energetically strong enough, right? Or, because we have to be, there's a crash that happens for a lot of people. Now, if you are strong enough, then that's awesome. You're ready to, there's a natural process in this where it's the time and you'll know it. But when we're trying to force ourselves, we're listening to information, telling us that that's the thing we have to do, you have to do it, but we're not actually ready energetically, it can actually cause more trauma for us. Let me explain something with a different example. So when homeless people get rehoused, right, they go on programs and get housing, it is fairly common, right, that they have a very hard time readjusting. That's when they get an emotional crash and, a lot of, they're struggling with their mental health even more and often might want to go back on the streets. The reason being, which is the same as what happens to us, when they've been living on the streets often, not everyone, but this is not uncommon, they're in fight and flight mode all the time, right? Their adrenaline is high, it's survival mode every day that the body's in, right? And when you're in fight and flight, you don't process your emotions, which is what happens to us in narcissistic abuse. We're in fight and flight response so much that there's a lot of stuff that's not processed. So when they get to the housing, now they're not, the adrenaline's off, the fight and flight mode of the body's turned off, and all the emotional stuff is hitting them. And it's too much for them to cope with. It's all coming at once. Now, that's the experience a lot of people have if they're not energetically strong. I'm going to teach you energetic strength, right? If they're not strong enough yet energetically to leave, because the crash, the amount of emotion is because the trauma that was stored, that the body hasn't processed, is all coming at you at once. So when people leave, there's a number of reasons why it's addictive to the narcissist that we've talked about. But like one of them is that when they leave, they get this crash if they're not healed enough yet. And that crash makes them feel very much like it's worse on their own. And now they've got evidence for it. Now you've got evidence because you left, you withdrew, and the withdrawal was such an emotional crash for you. It was worse than being with a narcissist because we love what's familiar. The brain loves what's familiar and hates what's unfamiliar. And so even abuse, when it's normalized, feels safe to the brain. So it doesn't matter how abusive the behavior is in the end. Once it gets normalized, the brain says safe. Safe. I know this. It's familiar. And that's programmed in us. So when we're talking about energetic strength, and look at some of the videos I did on emotional and psychological healing, because we need to be strong enough to be able to access our intuition, our personal power. We need to be in our bodies enough, right? We need to be already starting to process our emotions and heal so that we avoid this emotional crash. You're not going to avoid it completely. But if it's very severe, you're going to literally have the experience and think it was worse to leave. I'm not telling anyone who's ready to leave not to leave. I've told you, starve all narcissists of their energy. We actually heal them of your energy. We actually heal them that way, right? Because that's the only way they can then receive their karma and come into their own awakening and actually reattach to their soul if they choose, if they go through that process. But they can't do it while they're feeding off us. So if you're ready to leave, there's it's not going to, you're going to go through waves anyway. But if you've experienced this massive crash that I'm talking about, where it's just like you're desperate to go back, there are a number of reasons chemically in your body for it. And one of them is now you're not in fight and flight, your body doesn't know what to do. And now the unprocessed stuff's coming up. So what I want us to do is start coming into our bodies more, right? And so that we have to be safe in our bodies to be able to process any of it. Like I've said in another video, most of us are in our heads so much because it's all thought energy, ruminating, obsessing, wondering, is it a narcissist? Wondering, what type have I got here? All you really need to know is it a narcissist? It can be very helpful to look at the types so that you can definitely identify it, because you want to be definite, I get that, but you are under this bug that they put in you from their programming, which is keeping you wondering if it is a narcissist and can they change. But anyway, part of the things I've been talking about recently is, so we've got to safely come into our bodies. Most of us are in our heads, not dropping our energy into our body, and it's the body that's going to process the emotions. But we're scared to feel because there's so much in there. We're worried that it's going to overwhelm us. We've not been taught emotional intelligence. A lady I know was asking me about highly sensitive people. One lady was talking about, you know, highly sensitive person self-harming and all that kind of stuff. And it's because highly sensitive people, I am one, we feel in technicolor, right? And if you're an empath, you'll feel more deeply than other people. So our emotions can be very overwhelming to us, right? Which means that we have to do this gently. We have to go step by step. If you follow what I do, it's very gentle, but it works faster than anything else. It seems strange because but what I'm doing is not taking you too far. I'm taking you where you can go. This isn't about pushing ourselves out of where we can go, because everything we do step by step takes momentum. So the stuff I've been talking about this week on the emotional and psychological healing, about come into your body and your awareness more. Honestly, this is the first start to being able to process and heal the emotions. Coming back to ourselves, because when you're with the narcissist, right, you've lost you. And until you get you back again, you, who you really are, and your own connection and sort of personal power, right? You're not strong enough in your own right. Being sovereign is about being a sovereign being a source to self, being completely in ourselves. You've got everything you need, I promise you, to heal this inside of you. You've got everything you need to have the life you want. You've got, I know it sounds crazy. I know there's times in my life where it was just like, how is this ever gonna, how? But like, it works. You've got everything you need, but it starts with a reconnection to ourselves, right? And the first stage of that is actually coming into our bodies, into our physical. You'd be surprised, right, how you're living in fight and flight with a narcissist and you're not actually feeling anything properly anymore. It's hard to really be in touch with ourselves, and it's hard to feel safe in our bodies because our bodies have been in such a nervous system trap. So we're looking to reclaim ourselves and our sense of self. With a narcissist, you can't be yourself. You can't be yourself at all, because you're having to be what you need to be to keep the peace. You're having to, even if you've got the tactics, like I'm saying, like the communication tactics and ways to diffuse, you know, them, which is basically like the stonewalling and the strategies we use. We're not trying to be great strategists at dealing with narcissists, you know, but when we're in environments with them, we need those strategies, no doubt about it. What we're trying to do is come back into our own self in a way where we can be fully expressed as us. And with the narcissist, you're always having to work around them, right? Not upset them, use a tactic to be able to be in the environment with them. But what we're missing out on is us, who we are, right? We don't exist with a narcissist. They literally get you to a point where it feels like you don't exist. Your needs don't matter. Who you are is lost. You can't connect to any kind of inspiration, and the things that make you most you probably are the things that irritate them a lot of the time. They like the things that they like, anything they like about most of narcissists. Like, have you seen this? That anything good, that anything they like about you or seem to, it's always because how it makes them look, you know? So if you're pretty, you know, it's about their ego, you know, it's something they've got, it's something that reflects them rather than them being truly proud of you. If you've achieved something, your passions, they don't, you know, when we're with healthy people, our passions matter. It's part of who we are. We start connecting on things we love and that interest us. But when we're with a narcissist, who we are doesn't matter, right? All that matters is who we need to be for them. So we have to reclaim ourselves, our energy, get energetically strong. Now, this is faster than you can imagine. Honestly, it's faster than you can imagine. And it sounds simple, but this is simple. It's simpler than it's being made out to be, right? It's just you haven't had the right tools yet. That's the truth. Honestly, like, energetically strong is the number one step. Energetically strong opens your channel to your intuition. Energetically strong gives you confidence, personal power, and clarity. Energetically strong means that suddenly it's just a natural progression what you need to do. You're not forcing yourself and beating yourself up because you haven't left yet, right? You're working on you in a new way. Working on you is not just talking and talking and talking about what a narcissist did and trying to figure them out. That is the last thing you need to be doing right now. Working on you and self-love is not about having a bubble bath, right? It's about, who am I? I'm not going to abandon myself anymore, right? I'm going to notice when I'm doing things that I'm not actually okay with, right? I'm going to start putting a boundary, like maybe a tiny one. Well, I'll talk about that because, again, with narcissists, you need to put boundaries in, but we will do this step by step. But where am I abandoning myself when I don't need to, right? Because you're trained to self-abandon until we come back to self. When you come back to self, you'll be much more invincible. But we do this step by step coming back to ourselves. The first step is in our bodies. If you can start feeling the wind on your face for a bit longer, start having a glass of water. And this sounds simple, but I promise you, you'd be surprised at what happens in my world with people. Maybe you won't. I know you can see it. But what I'm just saying is, there are very simple ways to actually hack the programming that you've got that actually work faster than you'd think. Coming into the body, dropping down. When you're getting in your head too much, dropping down into the body. Feeling into how you feel. Now, you might not know how you feel. We've been so numbed out, but just being available for it. That's it. That's all you have to do right now. I'm just going to teach you how to regulate, how to make your nervous system strong, how to make your energy field strong. And then you'll know exactly what to do. Yeah? You won't be forcing yourself, and do not beat yourself up about where you are in this process. This is one of the hardest things anyone ever will do, is dealing with this and overcoming it. But actually, it's not hard to overcome it when you know how now. It's dealing with it is like, I don't know, it's one of the hardest things we'll ever go through. When you know how, it's a journey, but hasn't have to be long. It's just, when I say hard, I don't mean it's because it's hard to break through necessarily, because I know what we're doing here is going to be quicker. It's more, it's deep, you know, the traumas we've gone through are deep. The emotions we've got to process are deep. The thing we've got to rebuild is trust in each other, trust in the world, and trust in ourselves, you know, so that we can go on and trust ourselves to create something better. We can go on and rebuild things that have been ripped out of us. But like, it's hard because it's intense, you know. Sometimes it's easier to play the game with a narcissist than rather face like the level of what we've been through. That's hard. It's hard because we have to, like with the homeless people, I'm saying when they get in the house, that all the trauma hits them. Because we can't cope with what we've been through. That's trauma. We can't cope with it. That's why we've got PTSD. And so it's not like reliving every event. I teach you things that will help you just process it, not get stuck in it. You know what I mean? Because PTSD basically is us not being able to process. The body has now malfunctioned. Your circuit, your electromagnetic field is it's in combustion. They've combusted your brain with these programs. They've combusted your nervous system. And that's tough. That's not caused by how you're thinking. That's why people keep saying, oh, subconscious reprogram. You can't do that when your nervous system's with PTSD. I mean, I know what it's like. I've been up in the night, like not thinking. I know so much, and I know what PTSD can just take you over, and it's physically painful. You know, like, but again, it's not something we can't heal. It's just something we need to know that my body has been so overwhelmed. There's been too much for it to handle, and now there's a lot of unprocessed stuff. Processing your emotions doesn't take a long time, by the way. The body does it automatically. You're actually designed to heal. You're designed to heal, but we have to come back to self first, and we have to be willing to be in our bodies, not numbed out. You might think you can feel because you say, I feel angry, I feel upset, but honestly, you're numbed out with a narcissist. Like you're not really being true to how you feel. You're having a reactive emotion, yeah, but I'm talking about actually more than that. You'll see what you'll see as we go along. So please, I know I touch my body a lot, but it's very important, and I'm actually, it's very important. In fact, doing that might help you. We're looking to come into our bodies first. We're looking to see how we feel, and actually, yeah, we're disconnected from our body, and our body is the vessel from which we need to start with. Doesn't take a long time. We're getting it in a regulated state, so the things that can get to be processed through, and once they're it doesn't have to. Emotions aren't supposed to last a long time when we process them. It's like they're actually quick. The body knows what to do. You feel it, but it just passes. It feel it, and it just passes. It's not supposed to be something we get stuck in. It's because our bodies aren't working properly because we're in traumatized states. So I hope that's helpful, guys. I am opening something today. I'm gonna do that shortly, I think. Don't worry if you're in there, that's awesome. If you can't do that, there's nothing wrong with you. You start where you are with what you got. That's what we do here, right? We start where we are with what we've got, and it all works. And as we heal, our resources rebuild, our connections rebuild, and we get a better life, much better life. So yeah, lots of love, guys. I'll speak to you soon.